Now let's review our first illustration pertaining to labeling. Now, first of all, let's just look at the purpose of change and talk about that. The purpose of change is just a fine print note, or informational note, excuse me, has been added to send a signal to the designing engineer or contractor, whoever the authority having jurisdiction will accept, that the utility will provide, if they will do it for you, the available short circuit current from their power source to the service point as defined in Article 100 of the NEC. Now, this field marking that we're talking about in the illustration is NEC 110.24a Informational Note 2 on pages 49 and 50. Well worth reviewing. Now, Note 1 to this just talks about the arc flash hazard analysis information and available fault current should be provided, and that should be in NFPA 70E 130.5H as outlined and required in 110.24a Informational Note 1 and 2 talks about it. But notice there's an exception, which we will review later in 130.5H. And then note 2, the calculation shall be documented and made available to those authorized to design, install, maintain, and operate the system. Note 3 just talks about the values of available short circuit current could be obtained from the serving utility where the utility is willing to provide you with such information. Note 4 now, outlining the requirements, is calls for the identification of your disconnecting means, either a disconnecting mean for equipment, 110.22a for appliances, or say the disconnect at the service in accordance with 230.70, one disconnect, two or more disconnects, 230.71 and 72, as well as circuit mapping in 408.4 of the NEC. Now notice to the left of the illustration at the top, the short circuit current rating of the equipment is 64,000 amps in accordance with 110.24a. The available short circuit current is 48,850 amps. The date it calculated was the 1st and the 1st of 20th. And notice it's 110.24a, and naturally the 64,000 amp rated equipment can interrupt the 48,850 amps available short circuit current that may hit this equipment without damaging the equipment, severely. Now, the next thing I would like to call out, acceptance of equipment and so forth. Look at OSHA 1910.399. Now that's subpart S of OSHA 1910, the General Industrial Standard. And then Chapter 7 of 70B goes through these maintenance rules where labels are so valuable to the maintenance electrician. And then, of course, if you was to have industrial machinery, Chapter 16 deals with labeling, and 670.1 or 2, I believe it is, and the NEC refers you to NFPA 79 for certain requirements of equipment that falls under industrial machinery. Now, the last thing is 70E, 130.5H, and exception. Now, when we review 70E, it's kind of works in conjunction with 110.21B of the code, there around page 49. But notice the items that must be put on the equipment that the owner has to provide on the equipment. And notice, again, you have to have the voltage. Well, now the voltage was listed, say, in 110.21b. But the arc flash boundary was not listed in 110.21b, but it is listed here. And that can be an expense to determine that. It could be a whole room, or it could be just a certain distance in front of equipment. The arc flash boundary. And then at least one of the following, the incidental energy, or the PPE worn in accordance with the job task that's being performed and using the tables of 70E that are listed in little a under 3. And then B, the minimum arc rating of clothing. C, you could have the PPE that was selected from your job task going through the tables in NFPA 70E. But notice 130.5H3A, it's just one of those that are provided there. You provide one, you're okay. You don't have to provide all of them. And then, of course, in the exception, if you've already have a label, you do not have to update the label to the latest code as long as your label provides the information that was necessary by the code that it was applied by. And then the exception 2 has specific rules that states in supervised industrial locations. Now, that's defined, in 240.92. That definition of supervised industrial locations is right there. And then notice that the supervision is provided that ensures that maintenance, proper qualified people are provided, engineering supervision is provided, and then there'd be other means of where you could provide this information if you wanted to, like maybe on a website, a computer system. But you have the option to provide it elsewhere if you don't put it on the label. Longest now as you follow that rule and you fall under a supervised industrial location. Now, the last sentence there states that this is the owner's responsibility to make sure this label's provided. So to me, that means, they provide the money there, or they put it in a spec with the engineer to maybe the contractor provided or whoever. And notice every 5 years this label has to be visited and made sure that nothing changes that could cause electrical arc condition to be more severe. So that's the basic rules now that's in, and some of it paraphrased, in 130.5H for the second label on equipment on page 29 now of NFPA 70E. So that's the story. There are 2 labels. One is an NEC label and one is a 70E label, and this has been Hot Topics.